Hey everybody, welcome to our second workshop. My name's Garrett. I'm the founder of Ambition in Motion. I'm so happy, I'm so excited, I'm so grateful to have you here for our second workshop. I am pumped for you to experience our guest speaker later on this evening. But before we get started, I want to touch up on a couple of quick points. So you are starting your mentor relationship. That is awesome. Hopefully you've had your first conversation. I'd love to learn about it. Post maybe about some of the key talking points that you've had for your first meeting in the comment section. Would love to learn about how that first meeting has gone. But yeah, this workshop's all about how to network in a genuine way and really make the most out of it. This workshop should be about an hour long. As a reminder, I'm going to ask you 3 questions during the duration of this workshop. Once we have asked those questions, I'll expect you to answer them. That's how you get credit for participating and being here at the workshops. I'm really excited for you to experience our guest speaker tonight. I'm really excited to dive into this. Now, this is what's really key. I mean, genuine networking is such a pivotal component to building rapport, to getting job offers, to getting promotions. Really, if you can hone this skill, if you can hone this ability, you will be set professionally, because ultimately, at the end of the day, your hard skills, that being your ability to crunch numbers, to do some form of engineering, to do some form of science, like all those things are pretty good. They're very easy to measure. So it's very clear whether or not you are better or worse than somebody on a hard skill. But your soft skills are much more difficult to measure. But those soft skills are really what's going to set you apart. I mean, as they say, it's not about what you know, it's about who you know. And this is the workshop about how you can know more people and have a stronger bond with them, because then it goes to your reputation. Because if you have a reputation for treating people like garbage, you're not going to have a great reputation. People are going to want to help connect you with other people. If you come in with low energy, if you come in with a bad state, if you come in talking trash about other people, you're not going to put yourself in a good position. And so I want to be very clear. When it comes to networking, when it comes to building a relationship, it is not all about the transaction. If you're coming into a networking situation, you're thinking to yourself, what is in it for me? You are not going to have a positive outcome. I promise you on that. I really want to be clear. It's not all about landing the job or the internship. Sometimes it's about building the relationship and then playing the long game, because ultimately that may turn into an opportunity because they built a rapport with you. But if you burn them, or if you make them feel like you are using them to get to a location that you would like to be, they can smell that on you. They can smell it from a mile away. And that is not great. As they say, desperation reeks. You do not want to be desperate. You don't want to be perceived as someone that's a user or a taker. You want to be a giver. You want to be someone who gives energy to relationships. The first place to start is being genuine with how you talk to people and how you build rapport with people. Now, this is something we talked about last time, but it is so important, and that is the 3 keys to success in this program. That is honing your strategy, your story, and your state. As we've said before, your state is most important. So physically, how are you? Physically, what is going on with your world? Physically, I don't care what is happening. If you recently broke up with your significant other, if your dog just died, if you got some bad news, I don't care what's going on. If you get up, if you shake it out, if you let it loose, you will get yourself into a positive state. So I want to challenge you to do that right now. I want you to get up, and I want you to shake it loose. I want you to scream at the top of your lungs. Just go, yeah, just let it out, let it loose, let it go. Because what you're doing is you're releasing blood to your brain. You're releasing endorphins. You're getting yourself into a state conducive for retaining information. If you're just sitting there on a couch or in a chair in a slumped over position, your likelihood of retaining any of the information we talk about tonight is severely diminished. But if you come in standing up, moving around, getting your blood flowing, you are much more likely to retain this information. Have you ever found it difficult in a classroom setting to remember what your professor says if you've been sitting for 3 hours? That's why 3-hour lectures really struggle to work. They're not very effective because people are not moving around. Your brain needs blood to retain information. So get up, get moving, get out, get loose. Now, the second key is your story. What is the story you tell yourself for why you will or will not be successful? I promise you right now, you will achieve up to the goals that you set for yourself in life and no higher. So you might as well shoot for the stars and land on the moon than shoot for the moon and end up in nowhere. Because if you are not focused about where you want to be, or really having a big, hairy, crazy, audacious goal for yourself, what are you doing? Like, are you just saying to yourself, like, I'm cool with winding up short, with, settling down and just settling for everything in my life? If that's the case, this program's not for you. I can tell you that right now. This program is not for you if you're trying to settle. But if you're someone that wants to go for it, if you want to go big, if you want to go out there for the opportunities that you want to see in your life, this program is absolutely for you. Let this program be a springboard. Let your mentor be a Sherpa that's guiding you up this mountain of life and success and help you get to where you want to be. This is someone who wants to guide you, that wants to help you. They wouldn't have signed up for this program if they weren't interested in seeing you succeed. So I want to be very clear with you. What is the story for why you will be successful? Understand that, hone it, be prepared. In fact, I would challenge you to write this down. Write it on a piece of paper. It's more likely to stick in your mind if you write it on a piece of paper of where you want to be. Stick it up on your wall. Stick it up on your desk. Stick it up on your dresser. Stick it up on your mirror. Something that's going to remind you of where you want to be in 1 month, 3 months, 1 year from now. That will help you set the target of where you want to go. Because if you don't set these goals, you're going to be on a path that's got really no clear outcome of where you want to go. So the last part is your strategy. What are you going to do to set yourself apart? Now, when it comes to strategies, I'm a big believer in routines. When I say routines, I mean literally getting into a daily habit that you can practice regularly so then you can be better at a skill. We think about habits sometimes in a negative light because we think about people just being addicted to bad actions, but I believe that habits can also be attributed in a positive light as well. What is a positive habit you can get into to help you build more genuine relationships? I believe one thing you can do is to be intentional about having an informational interview every single week with a new person, with a new professional in your field. You can leverage LinkedIn. You could go to a professor's office hours. You could talk to a friend of yours whose parent works in the field that you're interested in working towards, or a family friend that you know works in the field that you're interested in working towards. If you set up one informational interview every single week, and by an informational interview, I want to be very clear. This is a conversation. This isn't an interview. You're not trying to get a job from this person. You're just trying to get knowledge about what this work is like. Set up one of those a week. I can promise you they're going to start making introductions for you. They're going to start helping you get to where you want to be. By the way, if your goals change over time, that's okay. That's totally okay. You can share with them how your goals have changed, and they're going to want to keep helping you over time. I'll give you a perfect example of this. As an entrepreneur, I set goals all the time. I have a board of mentors. I literally have about 50 to 100 mentors that I send once every 3 months an update of what's going on with the business. Here's the thing though, I've pivoted this business many, many times. Now, initially when I first got started, I was thinking to myself like, oh, well, they're my mentors. Like, if I tell them that I pivoted, will they think I'm a total failure? Will they not want to help me anymore? What I found is that is absolutely not the case. They're always there to support me. Mentors that have been with me for 5+ years still give me guidance, still help make introductions, still help me out and support me as my mission has grown, as my goals have grown. That is the nature of mentoring relationships. That is the nature of relationships in general. You should keep your network up to date with what is going on in your world because they will want to see you succeed. But the key is that you ask them for something specific. When I meet with my mentors or when I send them an email, I ask for something very, very specific. I don't say, hey, if you know anybody in XYZ space, if you could introduce me, would love that. Why? Because it's not at the top of their mind. What I'll do is I'll physically go onto their LinkedIn profile, look at who they're connected with and say, hey, I noticed that you're connected with Jane Doe, John Doe, Shelby Doe, and Jenny Doe. I know that you may not be connected with all 4 of those people, but if you are connected with one of them, would you mind introducing me? Here's an email template that you could copy and paste to introduce me. Now I've made it extremely specific and easy for them to take an action step to help me out. And that is how you can continue to grow your relationships, your network, and build rapport with people. And just keep them in the loop of what's going on in your world. So I just want to be very clear. It's about building genuine relationships, and it's about when you're building those genuine relationships and then you're asking them for introductions or connecting with more people through those relationships, being very specific and making it as easy as possible for them to help you out. I really want to stress this, it's so important. Genuine networking, if you can take anything from this whole program, if it's genuine networking, and by genuine networking, I mean really listening, taking an active and keen interest in who you are speaking with, you're going to be set. You're going to be in a great position. Because at the end of the day, it's not your elevator pitch. It's not going to be anything about you that makes someone interested in you. It's going to be about your ability to listen to them. In fact, I can tell you multiple times where I didn't say a word in a conversation. I just nodded my head yes and asked questions about things that somebody else has said. And at the end of the conversation, whether that be 30 minutes or 60 minutes long, they said, man, Garrett, you are such a great conversationalist. Or, gosh, I feel like I just had such a great conversation with you. And the funniest thing about it is I didn't actually say a word. The point is this: people love to talk about themselves. Why? Because people are really interested in things that they're interested in. People wouldn't choose to spend that they have the time that they have on this earth in the way that they did unless they thought it was the most optimum way of spending their time. Therefore, things that interest them, things that they choose to spend their time on, are things that interest them and ultimately make you interesting to them because you've taken an interest in those actions and activities. I hope that makes sense. If you want to rewatch that, take that back 30 seconds because I think it's really important. People ultimately, at the end of the day, people care about themselves. People care about things that they are interested in because they've chosen to spend the time that they have on those tasks. So with that said, I'm excited to jump in to our guest speaker this evening. Really, the whole point of this workshop is about genuine networking. By the way, if you have not connected with me on LinkedIn, please do. I'll add you to our LinkedIn group where we discuss different topics, and just you can add different topics, ask any questions, and expand us to our entire Ambition in Motion network. Connect with me. I'll add you to the group. But yeah, I'm so excited to get started. Let's jump into our guest speaker this evening.
Welcome to our workshop this evening. We're here to talk about how to network in a genuine way. So you might be thinking to yourself, okay, I'm about to pursue my career path, or I'm about to pursue an internship. How do I go about building the relationships that help me get to where I'm wanting to go? And you might think, well, shoot, does this person have something to offer me? If not, screw them. I don't need to talk with them anymore. Do they have something to offer me? Okay, great. I'm going to try to do whatever I can to get an internship or a job with them. And what we're here to talk about is that, looking at someone just for how you can use them is not an effective way to network, and that building those bonds and relationships can be incredibly impactful and helpful for you over time. We've got a really special guest with us here today to talk about this topic for a variety of reasons, but we've got Greg Fields here. And Greg, what's really cool about Greg is that Greg was actually part of the program that you're in right now. Probably like 4 or 5 years ago. And so he and I have stayed in touch over time, and it's really cool to bring Greg back as a guest speaker in our mentor program. And he's also part of our mastermind group too. But either way, Greg, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So Greg, if you could, we're here to talk about how to network in a genuine way, but I think maybe just to kick off so then the students can get a little context as to who you are, what you're all about. Do you mind maybe just sharing like your path as to college student, entering career paths, and maybe how you made some of those transitions, and just who you met along the way, how those networks really helped open up the doors for other opportunities?
Okay. Yeah, I was born in Texas, West Texas. I grew up in California. My dad was in the oil business, so we moved to California. That's where I spent my formative years. When I graduated from high school, I went to Florida A&M to be a journalist, to be a music journalist. And so when I graduated a degree in journalism. I was a reporter for, 5 or 6 years. I did that. Then I wanted to transition into something else, another industry. So I went to law school, and I got my law degree from the University of Pacific in George. Um, and I did some really cool things. I was able to do an internship in Beijing, China. I spent about a month there. I studied abroad. I was able to study in London for a while. I was able to work in Virgin Islands for about a year, where I double dipped. I was a journalist by night, and I worked for a law firm, a public service law firm, by day. And so then after that, I wanted to transition into something different. So then I went into banking. And so I worked for about 3 to 4 years in the banking industry, did a little bit of everything, sales associate, cashier, administrative, executive, pretty much everything I could do in the banking industry. And so my final transition was into state government. And so I started working for the Texas Workforce Commission. Then after that, I went to the Texas General Land Office as an accountant. I worked there for a couple of years. This last year, I worked with the Texas Facilities Commission as an accountant three, and I just got a new job as an auditor, compliance monitor, subject matter expert with the Department of Agriculture. Some of the things that I've learned for the transition was there was always a reason I wanted to do it, and it was usually twofold. It was something I thought that I could be good at, and it was something altruistic. I got into journalism because I loved music and I wanted to write about it. And I felt like I was a good writer and I could tell a good story and I could talk to people. I got into the legal field because I wanted to help people. And I also I realized the power of the law, that if you understood things about it, that you could help yourself and help other people. And that the law has mechanisms that if you set them up the right way, you can make sure no one takes advantage of you. I got into banking for the same reason, is to help people. And also, you know, my parents came from pretty poor families. And so there was a lot about banking that they had to learn on the fly. And so I didn't, there was a lot of hard lessons they had to learn. And I didn't want other people to do that. If I could be there and help them, I felt like I'd be doing my duty. Same thing with state government. I got to state government because there's a lot of resources there to help people. They just don't know about them. And so you may not be able to save the world, but if somebody comes to you with a bunch of fires and you can help them put out one or two of them, sometimes that's a huge help. And so that's what I've been doing. The other thing is I felt like I was good at the part of my job, which is meticulous, which is we go over financial records, we go over statements, we go over improvement plans by communities and cities. And so we have to go over things with a fine tooth comb. Not everybody can do that. But I enjoy that part of my job. So that's how I got here now.
That's cool. I love your story. You know, honestly, if I could say a through line through every element of your story is curiosity. It's like you possess genuine curiosity to learn about something. You became really good at it. You explored all the elements within the aspects of the whether it be banking or legal field or music journalism or now government. I just think it's so cool. Just you had the conviction when you want to learn something new that you make the move to build it and go after it. And I think that if when it comes to networking in a genuine way, curiosity plays a huge role in that. So I'd love to just maybe start with how did you go about like who did you need to know? How did you build those bonds to make those transitions?
I'll tell you an interesting story. When I was in college, how you got an internship is in journalism is you interview for them. And so, and the people that you couldn't just get the interview yourself, you had to schedule it through your counselor or through the professor. And it was like a point man or a woman. So they just didn't give those out. And a lot of times they only gave the interviews for the best students or students they felt like could represent the university well. So my first year, I'm going to be honest, I didn't get an internship because I had a girlfriend at home and I was waiting to get back to her. But then when that didn't work out, my second year, I was like, I'm going to get an internship because this is what I need to do. So I saw a flyer about this guy from Gannett. Gannett was a huge journalism conglomerate at the time. So I saw this flyer, and he was going to be down at one of these classes. And so I ran down there. Usually for an internship, you're dressed like I am now. You have to have suit, tie. You want to look good. Wear your Sunday's best. I had on like a t-shirt and jeans. I just ran down there, and I was like, "Sir, I'm sorry I'm not dressed, but I really want an internship. I'll do whatever you ask me to do. You don't even have to give me an internship now. When you come back next year, just remember me." And from that, he was like, I can tell you have hunger. I'll tell you have drive. I can get you an internship. Don't worry about the tie. We'll figure that out. Just sit and talk to me about what you want to do. And from that, I ended up getting an internship in Shreveport, worked for the Shreveport Times. And like I said, I wanted to be a music journalist, but he said, if you want to write about music, you need to do general reporting and you need to report on stuff that you don't know because um, your writing is not going to be as thorough if you've never written about something that you don't know and you get to know it, as opposed to if you're writing something that you know that you're trying to explain to someone. It's like you need that experience of going in somewhere blind of something that you don't know, maybe you're not even interested in, and figuring out everything about it so you can explain it to somebody. So when you start talking about things that you know, you'll have that background and you won't just be talking inside baseball. Nobody knows what you're talking about. So I was a business reporter for that summer. And some interesting things happened. They had a strike. They had there was a strike at the, I think, at the local mail service, UPS. They had like this business that was they were in trouble with the city council because they had this new color scheme that was kind of gaudy, and all the other business owners didn't like it. And so I had to talk to these people about these rules, about how, your awnings and your landscaping is supposed to be under the laws underneath the city ordinances. And it was really helpful because, again, like I said, I was a 19-year-old kid, so I didn't have any interest in that stuff, but I had to learn. And it helped my writing, and it helped my experience as far as networking with people, because I needed help. And it was my first kind of job that I had. And so when I went to folks and asked them for help, it was genuine because I didn't know what I was doing. And so I learned that it's okay to ask for help. And I always told myself, everybody says there are no stupid questions. I kind of feel like that's not true. There definitely are, but I try to limit my dumb questions to like once a day. I try to, before I ask a question, say, okay, do I know the answer to this? Is there a way I can figure this out? If I'm totally stumped, I asked it. But what you don't want to do is ask like 30 questions like that. And so, and I'm also very self-effacing about that. I'm like, I apologize if this seems like a dumb question, but I'm like really stumped here. And usually people are like, oh, no, don't worry about it. And so that's another way I learned to kind of network, which is just to be honest and not to, a lot of times we want to hide our deficiencies. And so if we don't know what we're doing, we don't want to tell anybody that. But when you're working on a job, particularly when you first get there, particularly on an internship, that's the perfect time to be like, look, I really don't know, but I want to figure it out. And a lot of times people be like, oh, don't worry about it. I was the same way.
You know what? I love your story. That's so cool. So let me take a moment to ask the students a question real quick. Post in the comment section, what is a unique opportunity to get your foot in the door for meet with a professional, meet with someone who's coming to your campus, meet with someone who's got an affiliation with your campus that you want to take advantage of, whether it be meet with an alumni, meet with someone coming to campus like Greg, your story, or like anything else. What is an opportunity that you would like to pursue to make a connection via your collegiate experience, to help you amplify your own career outcomes? This could mean reaching out to alumni. This could mean reaching out to someone coming to campus. Post in the comment section. I love to know what is like a stretch goal, something that might put yourself out there. Maybe you're a little nervous about it, but you're going to give it a shot anyways. Greg, your story was so cool. I love that. I love that you just put yourself out there. And the other big thing that you brought up about question asking, I'll double down on it. I truly do think there is no such thing as stupid questions. I think curiosity and asking questions is okay. And I think it's really easy to be in a working scenario, in a working situation where they just assume that you know what's going on. And in
Absolutely.
reality, if they haven't fully explained it to you, it's okay to ask questions. In fact, I've
Yeah.
been in scenarios where I didn't ask questions, and it sucked. I made a giant mistake. This is not necessarily, well, I was a server in the early days of Ambition in Motion, and I was a server for a restaurant, and it was like a high-end fine dining brunch spot. And they said, okay, Garrett, go ahead and fill up all the syrup containers with the syrup in the back. And I'm like, cool, cool, cool. Yeah, I got it. I'll fill it up, whatever. But I'd never done this job before. This was maybe my first week on the job. And so I'm like, cool. Where, just out of curiosity, where do I find the syrup? And they're like, don't be an idiot. It's in the back of the kitchen. Just find it. And I'm like, cool, cool, cool. Got it, got it. I'll practice not being an idiot. Uh, so I go up, and the only syrup I could find was the sugar-free syrup. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't think this is the syrup we use, but I can't find the syrup. I've already been told not to be an idiot and figure it out. Screw it. I'm just going to take action. I'm going to go ahead and pour this sugar-free syrup. So I got probably 3/4 of the way through pouring this sugar-free syrup into the jars. All of a sudden, for someone to come up to me and be like, whoa, 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 whoa. Are you pouring sugar-free syrup into these syrup containers? And I'm like, yeah, man, I was told to put the syrup in the syrup containers. They're like, dude, you're supposed to put like the syrup and like way in the back, hidden behind was this vat of syrup that, no one had pointed out to me. No one I'd asked once, but I should have been more pressing. I should have asked more
Right.
questions and not just assumed. And yeah,
Right.
I got yelled at and was like, oh my gosh, we wasted so much syrup. And I'm like, hey,
Yeah.
tried asking. I was told not to be an idiot. And
Right.
learning lessons. But the point I'm getting at is I don't think there's such thing as stupid questions. I think it's oftentimes easy in a work environment to assume that everybody knows the core things to do a job. But if
Right.
it's not been explicitly laid out, you really shouldn't assume anything.
That's a good point. What I would say is what I do now is I'll ask the question, but I'll kind of give the answer to it as I'm asking it. I'll say, hey, you asked me to do this. This is what I'm thinking. Is that right? And so normally people will say is, absolutely, that's exactly what you're gonna do. Or other people will be like, oh, whoa, 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 whoa. I see what you did there, but actually we wanted you to do this. But that's a common mistake. So that way I kind of like hedge my bets a little bit. So they'll know that I'm asking a question, but I'm also thinking about the answer.
You're not
And
coming
even if
from a
you
place of like helpless bird, like do the job
exactly,
for me. You're saying, hey, I'm trying to be
exactly,
solution oriented here. I think the way that you've described this to me, this is my interpretation of the situation. Is this accurate? And they can be
right,
like, it is in fact accurate, keep going. Or they can be like, oh, shoot, common mistake, do it like this, and then they can correct you.
exactly. Oh yeah, exactly.
No, that's a great point. I love that. And I think coming in solution oriented is really, really important to that. But let's go back to this topic of genuine networking. So when you transitioned, within kind of the government roles that you were in before and that you're in now, because it's so fresh, I love to learn. Who did you meet with at this new government? Like, what made you interested in this transition? And like, was there a connection that was made? Were there people that you were, excited to meet with? Like, how did that connection get made? What was the process like that for you?
Well, and my one of my jobs, I had a boss who I worked in a community development block grants. I was an accountant, and my boss was a block grant manager, and so we had a good rapport. She was one of those, fun bosses that we would have meetings, and instead of being a boring meeting, she would say, tell us one great thing you did this weekend, or tell us one good book you read, or tell us one great song you like, or if you had to be on an island and you only had one meal, what would you have? So she was like this really cool boss. And there was an opening in another department. And she came to me and was like, "Hey, there's an opening that I think you might be good for." She also discussed to me how to apply, and some of the things, because when you're applying for a state job, there it's kind of regimented, and we have to apply through the state website. And there's a way to make sure your resume is filtered through their filter. They have a pretty strong filter, so you have to almost by rote repeat some of the things in the job posting. If it does, and it's automated. If you don't do that, it'll just throw it out. So she taught me some things that I needed to do to get around so that I would be a more suitable applicant. And I was able to talk to her about the nature of the job, what I should do if I negotiate for a salary. She was like, State departments, you might want to ask if they have a budget, because sometimes they can only pay you but they can only pay you what they can pay you, and sometimes they can negotiate because some departments have more money. And so it was really through my interaction with her that I was able to see that there were other opportunities out there. The other thing is I'm a slash extrovert and introvert, which is I can be an extrovert when I know you, but when I come into a new scene, I can be an introvert, like kind of stay to myself. And I told myself that I wasn't going to be an alpha guy when I walk through the door, but I was going to say hello to people. I was going to like, hi, how you doing? And to be honest, that was hard to me because the guy that's like, "Hey, how you doing? How's your job? How's your cat? How's your wife?" I kind of hate that guy, but I was like, you know what? I kind of need to be that guy, like because I was like, you're gonna be working with these people, and let's try something different. You don't have to be, the job kiss up, but saying hello to people, and I think being kind of a tall guy, I'm kind of more sensitive to when I walk in the room, people always kind of look. So I decided, gonna smile a little bit more. I'm gonna be more friendly. And with that, I encouraged some friendships. And I had the friendship with my boss, and then there was another woman. She was kind of my boss too. We stuck up a conversation about she's got 3 or 4 kids, and she's got like 4 or 5 cats. And one of her cats scratched her scratched her child. Her child's probably like 3. And so immediately she wanted to have the cat declawed. And this caused like a very big like family fight because a lot of people consider that to be inhumane. But she's a mother, and so she was like, I'm trying to protect my child. And everybody she talked to about it was kind of like demonizing her because it was like, how could you do that to the cat? And so I decided, like, I don't have pets, so I don't know. But I just decided, you know what? I'm not going to judge her at all. I'm just going to listen to what she says and just be like, I get it. And so we started having these conversations about her cat and how, like, there was like a community against her. Like, they just like, people are very, very attached to their pets, particularly in Austin. And so everybody she talked to was like kind of like going on. There were even people saying, well, your 3-year-old daughter must have did something. And she's like, no, this is just a mean cat. And so from that and the conversations about that, and I would ask her about it every day. I was like, so have you declawed the cat? She's like, no, I'm still kind of fighting with my husband about it. And I think eventually what happened is they kind of shaved the claws. They didn't declaw her. They just kind of shaved them so they weren't as like sharp. But from that, we created a relationship where when I went to these other places, she asked to be a reference because we would have these conversations. She was like, I know you really well, and I know all about her cat. And so um, that was another thing that helped me to kind of network in a genuine way because that was a big thing to her, and I learned a lot of stuff. Not necessarily about my job, but just about people and how little stuff like that can throw off your day, and you can bring that energy to your job. And I told myself I wasn't going to do that. That stuff like that may happen in my life, but I don't want to bring that energy to my job because I don't want the people around me to feel the bad vibes. And so that was one of the way I was able to network. Is I talked to one of my boss. I let her vent to me about her cat situation.
I love it. That's a great story. And you want to know what? Let me ask the students a question real quick. Post in the comment section. What would you like to do better to build more genuine relationships with those in your office, similar to Greg has described? Because Greg, what you're outlining is the power of knowing more about people. I'm a big fan of Dale Carnegie's book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. I don't know if anybody's ever read that. If you haven't, I highly recommend it. It's like a 100-year-old book. But it's amazing. It's just as relevant as it was then, now than it was then. And one of the things Dale Carnegie talks about is people like those that remember things about them. If you take a selfie with a group of people, who's the person you look at first, last, and most often? It's yourself. Why? People love themselves. They love topics that are interesting to them. If you can convey interest in those topics, not to be a suck up, but just to show that you're genuinely interested in what they've got going on, to your point, Greg, they'll list you as references. They'll go to bat for you because you showed that you care. And I think that is so powerful.
Yeah, no, no, definitely. My last boss and my last supervisor, uh, I kind of thought we got off to a rocky start, because she was kind of a bottleneck, and you talked about this where she had a lot of responsibilities. She didn't want to delegate them, and so I'm sitting here like I can do that, but she's somebody that likes to do things herself. So we kind of had to tussle a little bit to get her to give me some of the things and responsibilities and not take the burden on herself. But what I found out is that number one, she loves music, and I used to be a music journalist. She likes 90s hip hop, which is probably my favorite genre, and she's a cowboy fan. And I'm a cowboy fan. So what I talked about was how tortured we are, since we always lose every year. And so from that, we started a conversation about just how long we've been fans, players that we like, the game that, whether we won or lost the week before. And from that, I was able to segue into like, hey, so you're doing 15 things. Give me 3 or 4 of them. I could get those done for you. And she's like, okay, no problem. And so I was able to either use that or music. Because I'd go in her office and she'd be playing. I'm like, oh, I remember that song. Or, or I remember I used to hate that song. We would have a conversation like that, and I could segue that to where I could ask a question. I'd be like, hey, I'm doing this. I think this is the answer, but I'm not sure. And she'd be like, oh, you're on the right track, or oh, that used to be the way we do it, but we've had updated software around. So now you have to do something else. And so that was a good way for me to familiarize myself and to network with her to kind of get what I wanted and get what she wanted. Also, I realized that she was one of those folks that she would tell you something to do, but she wanted you to do it like right now. And not all bosses are like that. Some will give you the less 10 things to do, and they'll come back in like a month and say, did you do it? She's one of those people that if she asks you to do something or she lets you do something, she wanted it done right then. So I made sure that whatever I was working on, if I could get those 2 or 3 things from her, I'd do it right now. And then I would go back and tell her, like, I just got this, I just sent this off, I just did that. And she'd be like, great, 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 great. And so from that, when I left, I thought I wasn't even sure if she would say goodbye, but she said she wanted to be a reference. She was like, you're a great employee. She was like, if I could have 10 like you, I'd be doing okay. We're sad to see you go. I did not expect that at all. Because like I said, she kind of played it close to the vest. But I felt like since we were at a dialogue about those couple of things, and I was able to realize what type of supervisor she was, that helped our relationship kind of grow a little bit. So we had mutual respect.
No, I love it. That's cool. What do you do to refine your relationship building skills over time? Like you're just like, it sounds like you're just the king of rapport, of just doing things, the adage is you're going to attract a whole lot more bees with honey than you are with vinegar. And it sounds like that's your strategy. And I think it makes a ton of sense. I think some people might look at a scenario like what you described of, oh, my boss is doing this, and they might do things that are toxic, like vent about them to other colleagues or coworkers, which just is spews just toxicity and is just bad for the entire workplace. Or they'll do things that are like, they'll approach their boss head on, but they'll be in a more defensive, combative mode. But you chose the rapport building methodology, and I think that's a really powerful element. And by the way, I think this applies for anybody, whether you're looking for a job or you're looking to, have a better relationship with your boss or literally anything you're doing at work. If you can come from a place of curiosity and rapport building and wanting to build that bond, you're going to get a whole lot more positive a response than, coming in combative. What do you do to continually refine your relationship building skills?
Well, um, I think first you have to decide who you don't want to be, and then you can decide who you do want to be. I decided I didn't want to be in sports. They call them a locker room lawyer, the person that's always kind of complaining and going to somebody else, and you should complain too. And this isn't fair. I told myself I wasn't going to be that person. I was going to come to work, do my job, and go home. Um, I also told myself that I wasn't, because I have introverted traits, that I wasn't going to come to work and be shut off. Like I was going to smile, I was going to say hello. That doesn't mean I have to ask everybody about their declawed cat. I can only ask one person. Or, that doesn't mean I have to tell everybody about, my 30 years of torture being a Cowboy fan. Sometimes it's just talking to someone and somebody will be a UT fan. And I'll be like, go UT. And I'll say, go UT too. And I just, walk away. Just little things like that. Um, I think it's important to figure out who you don't want to be, then you can figure out who you do want to be. I think the other thing is
Wait,
to
I
figure out
love
kind
that.
of,
I want to ask the students a question on that because I think that's really
yeah,
important. Students, post in the comment section, who do you want to be in the workplace? Post it. I'd love to learn more about that. But yeah, Greg, continue. Sorry for interrupting.
no, it's okay. I think the other thing is just to the first couple of the first couple of days and couple of weeks on your job, usually it's going to be kind of it's going to be hectic. Usually you need some type of identification. Usually you need some type of laptop. Usually you need to download some type of software. Usually you need some type of phone. Usually you need some type of access. That's all going to take time. So your first couple of days or maybe even week or two, you're not going to have a lot to do because they're going to be figuring out all the stuff you need for you to be there. I would take that time to kind of figure out as much as my job as I can, figure out what's the nature of my job, what I'm going to be doing, so that when I'm going through the process of what they're training you, it'll make you look like you learn fast because you already know this stuff. Um, a lot of times going to my jobs, the IT, we'll have problems with IT. There are problems with downloading stuff, and so you'll have downtime. That doesn't, go on the website and get familiar yourself with the website. Go into the employee manual and read it. You don't have to like memorize all that stuff. It's just familiarize yourself with it so that when they start talking about it and you know what they're talking about, it'll make you seem like you learn quick. And they'll be like, "Oh, you already know this stuff." It's like, well, no, yeah, I was waiting for my laptop, so I read that. You don't have to tell them that though. But people like fast learners. People also like people who ask questions. And so I use that opportunity to kind of ask questions. And so it makes you seem like you're interested in doing the job. And so that's another thing I do to kind of redefine my ways to have a rapport. And I think the other thing is just listen. Um, a lot of times we walk into rooms and we want to tell everybody everything. Oh, my kid is great. Oh, my wife is great. Or cooking is great. Oh, I just got a new car. I try to just like to listen. And so I had a guy sit next to me. He was a musician. And so one day, I just asked him, I said, what do you play? And he went on this long tangent and rant about he'd been in 5 different groups and that he played for South by Southwest. And I was like, oh, that's cool. And I was able to talk a little bit about my music journalism um, background. And we were able to talk about like traffic in South by. I think the other thing is sometimes you can add to conversations without dominating them. So if you hear a conversation about traffic and Austin's terrible, instead of holding court, you can just go and be like, yeah, I was on Mopac today and I was there for about 45 minutes. Really? Yeah. And that's all you have to say. You don't have to dominate the conversation. Or if sometimes people talk about UT, for last couple of years, we've been beating OU, but for about 10 years before that, they've been beating us. So sometimes people have a conversation about that. And I'm like, yeah, I hope we play OU this year. They don't beat us. Oh yeah, I remember that game last year. We almost won something like that. You don't have to dominate it. You just like add your little bit and then step back. And so those are the kind of the little things that I do. And I think the last thing is just to be genuine, like if somebody sneezes, just say, okay? Or if somebody is need a tissue, grab it, give it to them, something like that. Just little bits of kindness. You don't have to suck up to people, but I think if you show you're a genuine person, a lot of times people will respect that, as opposed to someone who wants to dominate the room, dominate the conversation. Somebody that's obviously having a conversation with you that they don't care. It's better to have a genuine interaction with someone than a 30-minute conversation where you're BSing. They know you don't care. They know that you're not interested. It's better to open a door for someone that's genuine than to try to chat up your boss about something you don't care about. And so those are the little
Love it.
things I've used. It seems to help me. Um, but thus you're right. It's a refining situation. And so I'm looking forward to my next challenge.
Good for you. Well, that's awesome. Well, hey, Greg, this has been great insight. Students, thank you all for being here. Been a really great workshop, really insightful about how to network in a genuine way. Students, I look forward to seeing you all in our next workshop. Have a good rest of your day. Thanks for your time, everybody.